frozen fish. But if you've got real B dot 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 with an S on the end, you go to where it's really happening, which is, you know, waves with teeth like bananas, hell of white water, all that business. And that's that wine that costs nearly £20 a bottle just evaporating away into nothing to make a sauce which is going to be fresh perch, fillets of fresh perch, you see, in a red wine sauce which I've just invented. And I don't even know if it's going to work. But if it does, it'll be absolutely brilliant. I can assure you. If it doesn't, then I'm going home to mother. I love Somerset, and I love Devon, and I love Cornwall. But I love coffee, I love tea, I love the Java Jive, and it loves me. In fact, you know, I used to be a very highly paid television presenter until I discovered this.
There's your special little program. Little table for the orange squash. There we are. And here are some more travellers up from the West Country. Your son Patrick and daughter Poppy, your mother Wynne, and the new Mrs. Floyd-to-be, your fiancée, Shauna Mullet. And thanks to John Miles for his help in getting you into that Dublin pub and to the 7 strong men it took to get you out. Now, Patrick, you're taking a night off from your father's Devon pub.
I am, and I have to tell you something. There was 2 things I never set out to do. One was become a chef, 2 work for my father. I'm doing both of them now very happily.
It's in the blood, isn't it? Yeah. Shauna, you met Keith in another pub.
Yes, that's right. It was about 6 months ago, actually. And I was out with a girlfriend having a drink, and Keith was with a rugby pal. And basically, it was love at first sight. And just recently, Keith's been to Spain to film next year's series. And I didn't hear from him for a month. No postcard or anything. Anyway, we met again when he got back. And 4 hours later, he asked me to marry him.
And did you remember it the next day? Yes. Well, a happy ending, we're sure of that. Well, Keith, since 1983, you've concocted some great television entertainment on your world travels. It all started when you had a restaurant in Bristol. Late one night, you came from the kitchens and sat down at a customer's table, and he turns out to be a television producer.
Remember, it's all very simple, really. Just be fruity, full-bodied, philosophical and passionate.
Before 9 o'clock. Wherever you are in the world, he is there too, and tonight is no exception. Your producer, David Pritchard. Now, David,
can you direct it? Because I'm beside myself.
all that you said earlier was what you said to our guest when you put him on television. But what impressed you about Keith in the first place?
Well, I was sitting in the restaurant, minding my own business, having, a few clams and a bit of tomato sauce and garlic and what have you, and he sort of came out, or sort of staggered out, lurched out, actually, from the kitchen, because it's a very hot kitchen. And someone was complaining about the bones and some fish that they were eating, and they had their Porsche parked outside of the pavement, and they wore sort of big gold medallions and what have you. And he apologised profusely for not having any scampi in the basket, and I thought that had a little bit of wit attached to it.
And they all loved his outrageous style, of course.
Yes, they did, but we did several series, haven't we? And we worked man and boy together. Yes. And we have, and I thought, sometimes staying in these, great posh hotels and having big cars, that maybe anyone could cook, as long as they have the passion and the feeling for food, which you have, obviously. But it's not, I thought maybe anyone could cook. It was late at night, and do you remember saying to me, in San Francisco? You obviously don't.
No, it was you who said it. You who said it. I mean, even a puppet could do what you do.
Something like that. But it was late at night. Yeah. And so you said, well, you have a go yourself. And you held me to that, because you refused to film the following day. And so I had a little go.
Well, backed by your...
very good, actually, sorry.
As we shall see, backed by your trusty team, you turned the tables. And here is that moment for you to savour again, Keith, your producer as chef.
Sorry about my hand trembling. It was a late night last night. That's why I'm doing this programme, right? Because a bet is a bet, OK? OK, it's going in the pot now, right? There you go, right?
It absolutely breaks my heart to tell you that it is
delicious. This is about the only harmonious moment you will ever see of Pritchard and me.
I think you're a wonderful director.
3 days later, they were divorced. Thank you, David Pritchard.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, David.
Now, Wynne, just out of curiosity, what is your son's favourite dish?
Well, homemade faggots and peas and good gravy.
And you make this for him on special occasions, do you?
Yes, every birthday, and a portion for every year. But now he's reached the age of 47, I'm giving it up. or handing it over to his new wife.
47 helpings of faggots is enough for anybody, I should think.
Confused Eartha Kitt one morning, I can tell you, when somebody on breakfast TV said, you normally have 40 faggots at Christmas, and Eartha was very confused by the whole thing.
Something strange in her life, I should think. Right. Well, Keith Floyd, this is your life, and you were born on the 28th of December, 1943, and brought up in the village of Wiveliscombe in Somerset. There you are, an innocent country lad, leaning not on a 4-ale bar, but a 5-bar gate. Your late father, Sidney, was an instrument mechanic with the electricity board. You loved to go fishing with him, and catching your first trout had quite an effect on you, though not as much as it had on the trout. What did it do to you, that first catch?
I think it opened up my eyes to food, to the fact we'd actually caught something. I mean, it was a vibrating, silvery golden thing with red spots on it. And we, in fact, had to look in the Observer's Book of Fishes to find out what it was. Such did we know about fishing. Actually, I haven't been that successful since. But I think it just gave me a great interest in things natural and things to do with food.
Well, your parents worked hard for you to become a day pupil at Wellington School when you were 11, and your best pal there is the son of a local farmer.
And I sat down to your first attempt at cooking.
And lived to tell the tale, Lynn Ratsey. Lynn, tell us about this slice of history.
Well, it was a slice of beef, in fact. My mother was doing some supply teaching, and Keith was staying with us at the time, and he was game for anything. He volunteered to do the cooking. And he heated this beef up in a very special gravy. It was a family secret, I think, this gravy. It was very tasty indeed, that beef. It was a recipe for success, all right, that.
Thank you, Lynn Ratsey.
Thank you.
Now, at school, you're a keen rugby player, but you have to wait more than 30 years for a real taste of glory.
And the important thing is that you let it simmer for an hour and a half. You add the potatoes for 20 minutes, and then cook. You add the chopped meat.
And a teammate from that unforgettable day is former Welsh international Ray Gravel. Do you think England missed out on a good prospect?
Oh, they'll rue the day, Michael, I'm sure of that. And Keith, I must say this, I think that's one of the most creative tries that I've ever had the privilege and pleasure of seeing, because as you weaved your way towards the try line, fending off these big guys, crash tackling 15-stone rugby players, you scored into the posts, converted your own try. You did it 5 times, not because you wanted to. David Pritchard made you do it five takes. And, well, you ended up with a broken rib, but absolutely tremendous.
But he did come into his own later, didn't he?
Well, he did, yes, Michael, because we filmed down at Kidwelly Rugby Club, and the boys there sent their love and best wishes. And then he made us, well, a scrumptious meal, an old Welsh recipe, cawl, which was fed to the Welsh princes of yesteryear. And I think we could do with some cawl now with our Welsh team.
Well, a pot of some sort, certainly. Thank you very much, Ray Gravel. Age 16, you hang up your boots at Wellington School and get a job as a trainee reporter on the Bristol Evening Post. Your famous bow tie makes its first appearance.
Is that me?
Yes. Trench coat and trilby complete the Hollywood reporter image. At a moment's notice, you leap aboard your powerful machine. Junior reporters with you 30 years ago, Roger Bennett and Jeremy Bryan. Well, it's nice to see you, gents. A Vespa motor scooter, a bit of an anticlimax, Roger.
I think it was, rather. Of course, the bow tie and the trench coat and the trilby were perfect for Fleet Street, but not really for Bristol. The Vespa was more that, I think.
It was a bit over the top. When I rode on the back of the pillion with Keith driving, it was I who went over the top, right over, because Keith gave me a lift to my big assignment of the day. I think it was a local flower show, and we hadn't got 100 yards, and we were straight into the bollard, and I'm not quite sure why, but I think we might have called it the odd hostelry en route there. And Keith came smelling completely of roses out of this, but I had stitches all the way up my leg, and I still bear the scar, but I'm certainly not going to show it to you now, Keith, not with a show that goes on before 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, spoil sport. Roger, why didn't Keith pursue his journalistic career?
Rather embarrassing this, he was fired.
Oh, that would explain it. Thank you, Roger Bennett and Jeremy Bryan. Quick rub down with an oily rag, you'll be all right. Well, the Bristol Evening Post doesn't need you, but you decide your country does. You joined the army as an officer cadet. This was the result of seeing a certain film, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, I suppose, again, it might have been something to do with going to the White Hart first, but I did go and see Michael Caine in Zulu, and I was much impressed by that and thought I could have one of those white horses and ride across Africa. It would be quite good.
Mm.
In fact, they stuck me into a thing in Yorkshire and made me run up and down streams carrying telegraph poles. But so I enjoyed it on the whole.
Well, that's life. There you are, marching to glory, not at Rorke's Drift, but at Mons Officer Cadet School, probably wishing it was a pheasant shoot. Now, you're commissioned into the 3rd Royal Tank Regiment and posted to Fallingbostel in Germany. Now, by the look on your face there, the food in the officer's mess is not all it should be.
Hello, Chief. Yes, and Second Lieutenant Keith Floyd decided to go to war on our mess kitchens.
Former captain in the same regiment, your great pal, Robin Evans.
How are you? Good. Through the mud and the blood to the green fields beyond, that is, isn't it?
Is that what it means?
Yes.
How are you?
Very good, very good.
Robin.
What was Keith's...
I can't tell you, Michael, this was a brilliant tank commander, when we could find him.
What was his part in the kitchen campaign?
But the part in the kitchen campaign was that he would don his dicky bow, the glass of wine, and he'd sail into the kitchen, and he'd take it over, and he'd produce this fabulous food.
And you met up after the army, didn't you?
Yes, yes, we'd both gone our separate ways, and I decided to go into the restaurant business, turned up one day in Bristol, and found Floyd, and I said, Keith, I've come to work for you. And he groaned, and he said, oh, sort of 10-day wonder. Well, I stuck it a year, and ended up running Floyd's at Oakfield Road.
You did, and very well too, if I remember.
Oh, thank you.
Very well too.
Yes.
Thank you, Robin Evans. But of course, you didn't just march straight out of the army and into your own restaurant in Bristol. First, you worked in the sandwich bar, the Apple and Charlotte in Bristol, owned by Mark and Joy Benson over there. Now, Mark, that led to Keith's first restaurant, didn't it?
Yes. Keith suggested that we open the sandwich bar in the evenings as a restaurant, and this we did. Shortly after that, I think Floyd's Bistro opened. And that was the beginning, as far as I recall, of Floyd's chain of restaurants.
Well, business boomed indeed. Soon you had 3 restaurants in Bristol, as well as a film location catering service. The only ingredient in this success story that gave you indigestion was the business side of things. You've always said you're not a good businessman, right?
That's absolutely true, yeah.
What do you like to do instead? Well, I know that.
I like doing it. I don't like VAT men. I absolutely hate accountants. And some of them who may be watching this programme will know who I'm talking about. I absolutely despise them to the pits of my belly. And I don't like business. I mean, life is for doing things, and there should be people who pick up the pieces and make it work, I hope, please.
You thought of a part in The Darling Buds of May. That would suit you very well. Anyway, you sell up everything. You buy a boat, named for some reason Flirty, and you flit around the Med for 2 years. That odyssey is finally scuppered for cash. You return briefly to Bristol. You try your hand at writing, but the world wasn't ready for the new Hemingway, so you turn to the spiritual home of the chef, to France. For 7 years, you live in Provence. Your old pal, Pierre Conil, looks at the unlikely start to your life there.
Hello there, Floyd. Do you remember when you came in your house to the Ile-sur-Sorge to sell antiques? You tried to establish tea in our town, but unfortunately you didn't drink much of it yourself. Your favorite waitress recalls your favorite table, Didi.
Floyd, pastis ou vodka orange?
Floyd, what do you want? Pastis or vodka and orange? Do you remember when we drank Irish coffee and he crawled home on all fours? Look who this is. Get to.
Do you remember, Floyd, the rugby match between England and France in Paris, where France stuffed England? You came to the Café de France carrying the Union Jack with black border and bought drinks all round until pastis was overflowing. Only an Englishman could have done that.
La visite de la Provence.
No visit to Provence would be complete without a few words from our friend Léo, my boss at the Café de France.
Salut, Floyd.
Hello, Floyd. Each one of us is far apart, but that doesn't matter. It won't stop me from thinking of you. And I drink a glass to your health. Cheers. Pastis, of course. Now to the home of the chef you most admire here, Claude Arnault. Keith, first of all, here's to your health. And I'm not surprised that you are so popular in England because I'll always remember your bow tie, your famous peach dish, and that glass of red wine, which is always in your hand. Cheers, and to your good health.
Thanks to all in L'Isle-sur-Sorgue. So they were special years.
Well, whatever success I might have achieved on television, I couldn't have done it without the time. Well, I couldn't have done it without several reasons. First of all, without always the support of my mother and my father. But without that time I spent in France, where I do believe I learnt the actual craft of cooking. Without that experience, well, there's no way I'd be here tonight.
But after 7 years, you got the itch to move again, and you moved back to Bristol, where you give the folks a taste of Provence. And in your new restaurant, you meet up with the particular customer, the man who is to become your television producer, David Pritchard. Now, David, the last series was Floyd on Oz, but here is what viewers didn't see.
I think I've never tasted wine in a more exotic location than rocking around on the boat down under on the Great Barrier Reef.
Whoa, shit, Jesus, darling. Christ. Whoa.
So, we've had, I don't know what we've had. What do you think of it then, Heidi?
Very nice.
I think that's what you call a takeaway, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, Keith, a favourite rock guitarist of yours also happens to be in the restaurant business as well. We discover him at his favourite table here. It's Bill Wyman.
Hi, Keith. What's cooking with you? Great to talk to you again. It's nice to know you're a Stones fan because I know you make great music in the kitchen. Pop in any time, Keith, and don't forget, there's always a job for you here if you need one. Of course, a glass of wine. Cheers.
Thank you, Bill Wyman. Now, another rock star played in the band that recorded your signature tune, Peaches, formerly lead singer with the Stranglers, Hugh Cornwell. So, Hugh, you and Keith go back a long way.
Well, yeah, before the band got involved with the signature music to the show, I was in fact a student in Bristol when the
great restaurant entrepreneur started, the Floyd's Bistro. And of course, no students in those days could afford to eat there, but I could afford to go and play guitar there, and I used to get fed for playing.
The grub was all right, was it?
It was fantastic. Keith, although you see on television, you think, oh yeah, this is television, anyone can fake it. This guy is actually a great cook. You go to his house, he's a fantastic cook.
And how was the money?
In the restaurant days, for me, I was like just a pittance, but it kept the wolf from the door, so I thank him for that.
And thank you, Hugh Cornwell. Now for Pud, as it were, someone who has prized himself away from his internationally famous kitchen to be here for you, Albert Roux. Albert, Keith flew with you to France a few years ago when a Chablis, the first pressing of a Chablis, was named after you, isn't that
That's
right?
quite correct, Michael, yeah. And on the way back,
Yes,
admittedly, we were slightly inebriated. We were two chefs having a good time. You made a solemn promise to me, and you have not yet kept it. You said to me that you would cook dinner for me. 4 years on, I'm still waiting, and my God, I'm starving.
The invitation is in the post, Albert.
Good.
Thank you, Albert Roux. Well, not quite time to put the chairs on the tables because we have 2 late bookings, and that's why we're popping back to Provence.
Pierre, here is 1 bottle for you and 1 bottle for Floyd.
Thanks very much.
Here with a personal delivery, your pals from Provence, Pierre Conil and Albert Gassier.
Oh non! Salut, connard!
Oh putain! Où sont les verres? On les portera demain. Ah ben.
Or words to that effect, Keith Floyd, this is your life.
This programme was recorded before Keith Floyd married his fiancée Shiona Mullet on Monday.